Despite the constant attention, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are not doing so well on fundraising. So now, I was going to say that they are terrible at fundraising, but I could have just stopped at the fact that they're just terrible and wrap up the whole segment. But I want to show you tell you some interesting things about their fundraising trip. According to Mother Jones, the PAC that they had created for this trip is broke. Pretty much. Now, this is despite the two spending the summer going around the country on this grand fundraising America First tours, America First. Greene and Gaetz apparently did not live up to expectations when it came to fundraising. Apparently, just 6 months after founding this PAC, the fundraising committee they launched has about $13,000 in cash left. This is after raising $360,000 in its first 2 months. So now wait a minute. That's a big difference. $360,000 and they're left with $13,000. Where did all the money go? Where did it go? Did it just like fall out of their pockets? What happened? What happened? So now Mother Jones again explains this. They explained that first there were multiple tour stops that were canceled over the summer, and only one rally in Iowa back in August that did not do very well. Apparently it was a financial bust. The group spent about $159,000 from July 1st to September 30th, but raised only about $57,000. Fail. Sad. And things aren't that much better for their own personal fundraising numbers. In fact, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is good at fundraising by herself. And she had actually raised more than $8.8 million in her short career, in which she has, of course, done nothing. The most recent numbers filed by her campaign, however, shows that her fundraising totals are increasingly eaten up by the costs of chasing donors and paying operatives and professional fundraising consultants and vendors that she hires. So she might be decent at, pretty good at raising money, but she's terrible at actually spending the money wisely. Well, wait a minute. I thought conservatives were supposed to be really, really smart, really intelligent with money. Unlike, the spendocrat libs. I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene could serve fiscal responsibility. Oops. Turns out, not so much. So now, in fact, in the first 3 months of the year, her campaign spent about 43% of what it fundraised on all of those different things. So you think, wow, she's basically paying half of what she raised on all this different stuff that she used to try to raise money. But wait, it gets worse. That number then increased in the next 3 months to 59%. And for the past 3 months, the figure jumped to 70%. So she spent more than $1 million to try to bring in $1.5 million. Wow, that's really terrible. That's freaking awful. How do you do that? I mean, how are you so bad at managing your money for your campaign that you're spending over 70% of what you bring in on trying to get donors? Absolutely ridiculous. All right, but of course there's more. See, here's the thing. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is good at raising money from small dollar conservatives, right? So in fact, those who gave her less than $200 provided 75% of her money in the third quarter. Now, again, you look at the third quarter where she spent 70% of that money on the different vendors and all that stuff and consultants. Well, that means the majority of that went to just nonsense of those small dollar donations. So her small donors have just been sending their money literally into the pockets of consultants. In fact, one of them is named Isaiah Wortman, who was also Greene's campaign manager during her run last year. Well done. How does that feel? Any conservatives watching, any people who wanted to donate to Marjorie Taylor Greene. How's that feel? That most of your money went into the pocket of a highly paid consultant. You have to feel real stupid, right? Kind of swindled a little bit. Then again, if you're giving money to Marjorie Taylor Greene, you might not be the smartest person in the first place. You know, and might believe in insane things like Jewish space lasers. So, I don't know. Now, the best part about this, oh, one more thing. So now, they're getting these donations, right? They're getting this money off you, and they're also living large. So, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, makes her congressional salary, along with other possible business opportunities, media speaking gigs, et cetera, et cetera. And so now that's Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now let's go to the best part. Matt Gaetz. Matt Gaetz is an absolute mess. He is currently the target of a Department of Justice investigation over his role in alleged sex trafficking operation. So it turns out that maybe being a pedo is not so good for fundraising, even among Republicans, which I find for the modern Republican Party kind of surprising. And yet, according to campaign disclosures, like Greene, Gaetz had a strong start to the year, raising $1.8 million in the first quarter. After word of the investigation hit in April, his fundraising slowed. It dropped to $1.4 million. Unlike the first quarter, when he was able to make more money than he spent on fundraising, the second quarter saw his campaign spend about $500,000 more than it raised. The Gaetz campaign latest filing shows that his fundraising is all but dried up. He raised just $527,000 from July 1st to September 30th, and spent far more, $627,000, trying to raise that money. So he's negative $100,000 in the hole. Oops. Gaetz' biggest expenses are direct mail and paying fundraising consulting costs to his vendors. In fact, those two things ate up about 60% of his total donations. The rest, of course. Now, earlier I asked, where's the money going? Did it fall out of their pocket? Well, again, a lot of it went to the consultants, but then a giant chunk of what was left also went to basically what's a glorified vacation. Gaetz' campaign spent lavishly on stays at hotels and resorts across the country. The campaign spent about $29,867 on lodging over July, August, and September, including $2,300 in early July at the Edgewater Beach Hotel in Naples, Florida, $2,100 in an ultra-luxury hotel in downtown Portland, and in early September, and almost $1,500 on a Kimpton Hotel in Cambridge, Massachusetts in August. Oh, oops. So, for Gaetz, this has been nothing but just a fancy vacation where he gets to travel around and not actually do anything. Again, how does it feel as a conservative donor to know that you have been paying for his fancy hotels? Don't you feel dumb? No, of course not, because you've given money to Marjorie Taylor Greene or Matt Gaetz. Come on. So now this is, I can actually find a little bit of a silver lining in this, because, and for a couple of reasons. For one, it appears that Republican donors might have drawn a line at alleged sex trafficking. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Look, is that a low bar? Yes, very low bar. But this could also mean that people are getting tired of Marjorie Taylor Greene and her antics, and her, really, more importantly, her lack of doing anything to help her constituents. I mean, what has she done for her voters in Georgia? She calls everything basically communism. The Biden plan, which is incredibly popular, the Build Back Better, that's a $3.5 trillion reconciliation package. No Republicans are in favor of this. And, you know, it's very, very popular, bipartisan, okay? So you look at the polls, it's really popular. And yet she refuses to do anything because it's communism. Oh, it's a Trojan horse, to sneak in the Green New Deal, which the Green New Deal is, of course, communism. So, yeah, not doing anything to help. All she does is just go around the country, spending your money on hotels, and then going on Steve Bannon's podcast and calling everything communism. That's what she does. Now, there is also one more possibility of why Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz are not raising as much money, and it could just be the fact that a lot of conservatives have decided to send their money to Donald Trump. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.